Welcome to the channel, and welcome to today's video where we will be going to Africa. We will be playing a homebrew set of rules I cooked up, taking place in the darkest Africa subgenre of wargaming, where the concept is basically adventure and exploration type of rule set, akin to heroes exploring temples, looking for treasure, fighting rebels and tribal people of Africa. Still a work in progress, but I figured I'd show it off, see what I've come up with. It is basically something that I was inspired to make, particularly off of things like the movie The Mummy or Indiana Jones. So, kind of going for that kind of concept. So, but today's little scenario will not be exploring a dungeon or a temple looking for treasure. Today, the British forces will be raiding this village full of Sudanese slavers. And the objective is basically to locate the slavers, take out any that they can find, and secure any supply caches in the village. And as you can see here, we have 3. And then we have 5 dice tokens I got set out. These will be possible locations of where some slavers are located. The objective is basically to get within range of these dice markers to try and scout out where the slavers are at, while also trying to get to the supply caches and secure them. So, with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the forces. And here's my British force. We have 2 units of British infantry, all with their rifles and bayonets. So everything's stock. And then my character today is a British officer. He is equipped with a saber and a pistol, or a revolver. And that is all of my forces. On to the AI forces. And for the AI forces, we have 3 units of slavers. We have a unit with all rifles, a unit with 2 rifles and 2 swords, and then a unit of all swords. 4 in each. They will essentially be, if they are located near a supply cache, they will guard that supply cache. If they are not, they will pursue the British forces, trying to get in within melee range, if they have melee weapons. So, with that, let's go ahead and deploy, and then let me show you some of the game mechanics. Alright, we have set up our forces. A unit here and a unit on the left, with the officer on the right behind the rock. For they are preparing to enter the village. Obviously, if the slavers were just out in the open, they would be easily spotted. So, for imaginary's sake, we will say that it is a village and it is bustling with plenty of civilians, not just the slavers, so it is harder to spot them. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And how we start is we will select a unit to activate. So we'll go ahead and activate this unit of troops. And now to determine what they can do, we have an action dice pool here with traits and gear item or list that you can write down. We have it blank for now, just to show it off. Obviously they have rifles with bayonets, and the officer has a saber and revolver. So how this works: the unit of 4, they are considered troops, so they would be your soldiers or your henchmen, and then for each one in that group, they get 4 action dice. So you'll take those action dice and roll off to see what you're able to do. So we have an any, 2 move actions, and a melee action. And then, so not a whole lot we can do at the moment, but we can move twice, or if in case of doubles, you would get a bonus to your movement. Might not matter, might not make sense to do that in the case of, you can just move again. But for these rules, your first movement will give you 4 inches. As all troop normal movement for unmounted units is 4 inches, while mounted units will be 8 inches. So if I were to use one of these, I would be going 4 inches. If I were to use the double, I would be going an extra 2 inches. Now, say I decided to do 1 action to move and then another die to move again. So you can't, but most of these actions you can only do once, depending on which one you'd pick. But for the movement, you can do as many times as you want. But if I were to do it again, my movement would be reduced by 1 inch, down to 3. So in this case, it would make sense to do 2 single actions of movement just to get a total of 5. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And by a total of 5, I meant a total of 7. So 4 inches plus another 3 for the second movement for a total of 7. So that's where it gets them right there. And then in order to spot the slavers, you got to be within 6 inches to try and spot them, which we are. So in order to spot, you would have to do an action. So I don't have any dice to do the action, but I do have an any die, which will let me do any one of these. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we will try to spot the slavers. So in order to spot them, you have to roll a die. So on a 4 place or a 4+, I will spot them. Nope. Alright, so we do not spot the slavers. And alternatively, if you were to get within range of that unit, so basically on top of it, you would automatically determine if they are there. So that is all we have, but we have a melee option left, but nobody to fight. So we'll just move on to the next one. Alright, so at this point in time, after I have activated a unit, the AI would activate one of their units. But since there's none currently spotted or inactively fighting my units, we will just move on to my next unit. I may try to come up with some sort of AI mechanic to where they can try to shoot at me in cases of like this. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and move on to the next unit. So, next we will activate my officer. So, officers are slightly different. They are not troops. They are essentially your heroes or explorers, you know, your character that you want to try to create. And they get a total of 4 dice all to themselves. Additionally, for each action die available, that is also your health. So my hero, my officer here, has a total of 4 action dice for a total of 4 hit points. And then for the troops, 4 action dice for 1 hit point per model. So this game can be quite deadly depending on your rolls. So with that, we'll move on to the next unit. Alright, so we'll activate my officer next for his 4 action dice. We got a shoot, 2 cover/take aims, and a movement. So not a whole lot of options here. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to spend all of our dice to, not all of our dice, we're going to spend 3 of our dice to move and 1 dice to take cover. So to keep things simple, if you're going to do things like take cover, that is something that doesn't happen immediately, only when you're taking fire. So for a simple reminder, you can go ahead and just put a die with the number to say you're taking cover. So with that, we'll go ahead and move for a total of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 inches of movement. And we'll see where he takes them. Alright, and that's where he ended up. Trying to perform a little flanking maneuver on this possible slaver location in the busy bazaar here in the village. I've thought about giving them a total of 6 action dice, but I find that they get too many options, and then some dice are just left useless. So that may change in the future, but for right now I'm just going to keep it at 4. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to the next unit, being my last troop unit. Alright, we got several melee options, which doesn't really help us, and then an any. So we'll just use these 4 melee options to move, and then the any to try and spot the slaver unit. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's where they ended up, and then on a 4+, they will spot that area. They do. Alright, so they successfully spot that location, and then I'm doing, for just make this simple, I might change how I do this in the future, but for an easy way of determining if that is a slaver unit, I took a total of 5 dice for the total of token dice on the table and put them in a bag. 3 of those are black, representing a slaver unit, while 2 of them are green, representing no slavers in that area. And I just threw them in a bag, and I will go ahead and draw one out to see which one it is. And we have a group of slavers. Alright, so I will go ahead and place one of those down, and then we'll just randomly pick one just to make it uneven. So we got 1, 2, and 3. Roll a d3. It is the group of guns. That'll actually benefit us. So let's go ahead and place them down. And there they are. We've spotted them. Unfortunately, we cannot do anything else about it. And then that is the last of our activation. So, it'll now go to the slaver unit that is not activated, which is the guns, which actually might not be as beneficial to us as I first realized. So, they're not guarding a cache. So they will attempt to engage in melee if they had melee weapons, but they don't. They have all guns, so they are not going to attempt to engage us in melee. Instead, they're just going to shoot at the closest target. Possibly, it would make more sense for them to also engage in melee, even if they don't have any swords or knives. So, but for now, we're just going to say they're going to stay put and continue to shoot at us. So, they're going to shoot at the closest enemy unit, which is this unit here. And then for shooting, it is a simple 5+ to hit. And they missed every shot. So, lucky for my infantrymen. So, they spotted the slavers in the bazaar, but the slavers spotted them in return and took some shots at us. Luckily missing us, and the villagers will now scatter out of the bazaar, and the fight will begin. So with that is the end of turn 1. We will now go to turn 2. My officer will lose his cover die as we go into a new turn, and then we will begin. Alright, start of round 2, I will pick a unit to activate, starting with this unit here. So let's go ahead and roll our 4 action dice. Hopefully we get some shooting. Alright, we have an action, a move, take cover / take aim, and an any. So, what we will do, we're going to aim and then use the any to shoot. So how take aim works, it allows you to better shoot your opponents, but the negative is you cannot move that unit. So we're going to go ahead and not use these 2 action points, just to take aim and shoot. So 4 dice for each rifle, taking a shot at the slavers. And then this will be hitting on 4s this time since we took aim. Now for the AI, I will have them take cover on a 4+, if they have something to take cover in. As they are out in the open and there's no piece of terrain within range of them to take cover to, they are unable to take cover. So this would just be me firing at that unit, hitting on 4s. And that is 3 hits. So, and just like that, the slavers take fire at us, and we return fire in force, taking out 3 of the slavers right off the rip. Alright. Now, with that done, we will go to the slaver unit that will now activate next. Maybe if it would make more sense that since the firing has begun, the rest of the slavers would come out of hiding to engage in combat as well. But we'll just say, it's a large village. They can't be everywhere at once, and they do need to guard the supply caches. So, he's down to 1 left. Since he is below half, he's going to go ahead and roll on his, I guess, morale for the AI, just to see if he tries to run away. So on a 5+, he will run in the opposite direction, which he does. Alright, so he's going to move 4 inches that way, and then take a shot at one of our units as well. Alright, backing up 4 inches, that's where he ends up, and he's going to return, take some shots at this unit here. Hitting on a 5, no, he misses completely. Alright, and then with that, we'll move on to my next unit. So we'll go ahead and start off with this unit here. Let's go ahead and roll our action dice. We got an any, a melee, a move, and another melee. So we are going to just use these three here to move, and then the any to shoot at that slaver there. Alright, and that's where we ended up after moving 6 inches. And then we're going to fire in at this slaver here, try to take him out. 4 shots hitting on 5s, which we got a 6. So that is that last slaver unit gone. And then we'll use my last movement die to move another 2 inches towards the cache. Alright, the British soldiers begin to move into the rest of the village, clearing out any slavers and looking for supply caches. So, next up, we have my officer. Alright, we got a little bit of everything here. We got 2 for shoot and a 4. So, we will use the 4 to move for a total of 4 inches, and then if that gets me within range of that supply cache, I'll use the any to scout it out. Alright, my officer is in range of that supply cache. He's going to try and scout it out on all 4, which I do. Alright, so let's go ahead and see if any more slave units are there. No slave units there, but there is a supply cache. So, I got 2 more dice, so we'll just go ahead and use those 2 dice to move up to that supply cache. Alright, and that's where he's at. So, I think in this type of scenario, maybe it would make more sense to burn the supplies, as my force is not big enough to secure the village indefinitely or get all the supplies out. So maybe this is a raiding party on a known slaver village that we are attacking and burning their supplies. So we'll just go ahead and say we're going to burn these supply units while taking out any slavers in the area. So on turn 3, we're going to try and burn that supply cache. On to turn 3. Alright, and at the start of turn 3, we're going to start with my officer. So we got a total of 2 melees, an any, and a movement. So we will use the any die as an action, and we will burn that supply cache. No need to roll for this. It would just be one of those things that we automatically do, I think. Possibly we'll change that to be like the scout rule, where you have to roll a 4+. But for now, we'll just say he automatically sets fire to the supplies. And then we have 3 movement. So we'll go ahead and use that 3 movement dice to get closer to the next scouting location. And that's where he ended up after his movement. And there's the supplies on fire. So that we will move on to our next unit. And then, so in other scenarios, there, until I figure out maybe there's an interrupt mechanic for the AI. If you were like searching a set of old ruins for some buried treasure, or just searching a jungle in particular, there would be trap tokens that would be laid out for different set of hazards, you know, actual traps set by an ancient civilization, or quicksand, or even wild animals that would activate if you got within range of that token. But for now, we're just going to keep it simple and do this little raiding village. So, moving on, we'll start with this next unit here. And we have 2 cover/take aims in action. and a move. So we're going to use these two cover take aims and a move to get within range of the wagon and that supply marker to scout it out. And that's where they ended up. So with their last action die, they're going to use that to scout out this location. So on a 4+, it is a success, and we will see if there's a slave unit up on the roof. No slave unit there either. All right. So with that, there are no more non-slave unit dice. So I could either just continue on trying to scout these locations, but I think for the sake of getting some action on the board, we'll say once all of the non-slaver tokens have been discovered, the slavers will now come onto the board, and the action will begin as they will respond to the enemy threat in their village. Alright, here we have a unit of sword slavers, and then the 2 swords and guns over here next to the supply cache. So, this unit here will be able to move towards the enemy unit, aka the British, while this unit is going to guard the supply cache. As they see the smoke rising from their other supply cache area, they're going to do what they can to defend that one. So, now that I've activated my unit, next up the slavers will activate. So we'll go ahead and just do 1 to 3 for this unit, 4 to 6 for that unit. Alright, the sword units will activate. So as they can't fire, they are just going to move towards the closest enemy unit within line of sight, which is my officer. Alright, and that's where they're at. Moving 4 inches, as they're not within range to engage in combat, they will not move any further. That may change in the future, just to try and balance things out. If they were maybe all on the board at the same time, I would take more casualties, but right now it seems a little easy for the British. But that may change. We'll see how it goes. So next up, we will activate my last unit, which is this unit here. So let's go ahead and roll some action dice. Alright, we got an any, cover/take aim, a move, and a shoot. So I think we are going to take these two. Actually, yes, we're going to take these two to move as close as possible towards my officer to back him up, and then use one of my dice to shoot, and then my any. What can I do with that? I guess we can take cover, actually. Yep. So 2 movements, take cover, and then shoot. Alright, my British forces move up to back up my officer, and they're going to fire in at this unit of slavers right here, as they can see them. So 4 dice, hitting on 5s. For just 1 casualty to the slavers. The slavers will actually take cover on a 4+, since they are within range of some terrain. So they do take cover, so now they will try to dodge that shot that hit them. So they will dodge it on a 5+ as well, which they don't. So one of the slavers gets taken out. We'll go ahead and take out a sword, since they're trying to guard the cache, and they'll need the guns more. All right. So that's them. That is the British activated, and then it goes back to this unit of slavers here. So they're gonna take their 2 riflemen and take some shots at the closest enemy unit, which is my officer. So, hit on a 5, which they do. So my officer takes 1 hit. He is down to 3 action dice remaining. And then, that is it. We will go to the next turn. Alright, so starting up, we'll go ahead and start with my officer since he did take a shot. He is slightly wounded, so he'll be on 3 action dice remaining, so we'll go ahead and start with him. So we have an any and action and a move. So we're going to do that any to shoot. So we're going to take a shot with my revolver into these slavers here. Hitting on a 4 or a 5, that misses. So I miss my shot, and then I'm just going to... We are going to use my 2 actions to move towards the slavers. Alright, and that's where he ended up after missing his shot. And then I have to go back and check, but for characters, if you were to roll a 1 for shooting or in melee combat, you would either run out of ammo or have a gun jam. Alternatively, in melee, you would drop your weapon or you would fall prone in combat. That is just to kind of create some chaos for the characters, for a dangerous scenario that can happen to them. While troop units don't have those type of restrictions, as they are a little more limited in what they can do. So I'll go ahead and check back to see if I rolled a 1. I might have. I think I did. So he would possibly have to reload or unjam his gun, which he would just need to do with another action die. So, let's move on. Alright, after checking, it was a 1 on his shooting die, so he did run out of ammo or get a gun jam. Since I just moved 4 inches, I'll just use that other action die I had to fix his gun. So with that, we move on to the slavers. So 1 to 4, or 1 to 3, 4 to 6 for that unit. Alright, the swords will go first. They will move towards the closest enemy unit, which will be my officer. And so how this will work is they will always make a movement. And then for melee, you will be able to basically do another movement if you get within engagement range to do your combat. So it's kind of like a double movement or a charge. So depending on how far my officer is, they will engage with him. Alright, and that's where they ended up. They were just shy of 4 inches for my officer, so they aren't able to engage with him in melee. So with that, we'll just move on to the next unit, which will be my troops here. Rolling 4 action dice. We have an any, an action, a melee, and a shoot. So plenty of options here. We're going to use our any to move. Moving 4 inches. So we're getting right up into range of these guys. And then we're going to fire with my fire die. 4 shots into these slavers right here on 5s. 4-2, taking 2 of those slavers out. They will, we'll say no cover for this since it's kind of point blank range and they're in the middle of the alleyway. So 2 of them go down. And then we will use my melee die to engage with them in melee. So they fire a salvo with their rifles and then they go charging in to combat. So 4 dice. Now for melee, since they have bayonets or weapons, they will be hitting on 4s. And that is 2 more hits on the slavers, cutting them down where they stand. So, and then my last action, they'll just move another 3 inches over here to surround this other slave unit. Alright. So that's it for them. Next up, my slavers will activate. So they're going to fire. They're going to take 2 shots at the closest enemy unit, which will be my troops. Hitting one of my troops, one of my guys goes down. And then since they are within range of the objective marker or the supply cache, they will try to engage in combat as well. So we have 2 with rifles and 1 with a sword. The sword will be a black die, so they'll be hitting on 4s, while the ones with the muskets, they'll be considered unarmed, hitting on 5s. Alright, so they're able to get 1 of my troops down. Another one of my guys goes down. And then that's it for melee, so they'll just back up an inch so they aren't stuck in combat. And then it'll go to my next unit. We'll start with these guys over here. Alright, action dice. Take cover, action, shoot, and melee. So we're going to we'll just go ahead and use my shoot die to move. Get within range of the supply cache. And then we'll use my action die to set it on fire. And then use the rest to move towards the last supply cache. Alright, the wagon is on fire and the troops have begun moving through the alleyway towards the last supply cache and the slave traders. So that we go to the next turn. We'll just go ahead and start with my officer with his 3 action dice. Alright, we got an any, a melee, and an action. So that's perfect. We will use the melee and charge into combat. 4 inches, and then he'll use his saber to strike at those slavers there, hitting one of them on a 4. Which he does. He manages to cut 1 down. And then he will use his any die to get within range. Yeah, we'll just say he gets within range of that supply cache, and then he'll use his action to set it on fire. So with that, all of the supply caches are on fire. Mission successful, and we just got to take out these slave traders. So with that, it is their turn. They are going to shoot at the closest enemy unit, which is my officer. And that's a miss. And then they'll go into combat with him, taking a swing on my officer. For a 3 and a 1, that both miss, as my officer manages to deflect their blows completely, while also setting the supply cache on fire. As he defends them, his troops will come up from behind and try and take out those slave traders. So we've got 2 guys left, 2 action dice, and a 6 and an action. So we'll use that 6 die to take a shot at those traders, taking them out on a 5. And one of them goes down just like that. And then slaves, no more slave trader units to activate. So these lone troops over here will activate next. And we have a shoot, an action, a move, and a take cover / take aim. So we'll just go ahead and use the action die or the move die to move within line of sight of the enemy. We'll just say right about there. And then we will use the shoot action to take a shot at that last slaver to finish him off on a 5. And 2 5s will do it. He will try and take cover, which he does. So 2 5s, and he dodges it. He dodges it. All 4 shots miss the last slaver as he ducks for cover in the alleyway. And then he is the last unit, so I guess I should roll to see if he runs away. Which he does not. He's going to stay and fight to the death. Alright. Moving on to the next turn. Which is easy enough. We'll start with my officer. We got an any and 2 movements. So we'll use that any to charge into combat as he goes in with his saber to try and cut down that last slaver. On a 4+. No, he misses. That's unfortunate. So he'll back up. Slave trader will go next, taking a shot at my officer with his rifle. And he misses. And then he'll go charging into combat, taking me out on a 5. No. As they are locked into mortal combat, they are unable to take each other out, leaving just my officers. We'll go ahead and do these 4 guys over here to see if they can finish them off. And that'll do it. We have a take cover / aim and an any with 2 action dice. We're going to take aim and fire with the any. So there's be 4 shots hitting on 4s this time. And that's 2. That'll do it. He's going to try and take cover on a 4+, which he does. And then let's see if he can dodge 2 more shots. No, he just dodges 1, and the other one takes him out as the last slave trader goes down. And then that is all remaining. All the supply caches have been burned, and the slave traders in the area have been taken out. So with that, the British troops will gather their casualties and exit the village with a successful raid. Alright. So with that, the game is over. Obviously, the rules need more work. There's still some testing to be done, but that was just a quick little introduction on the game mechanics and how I want to kind of play this out. The lethality is pretty hit or miss. With a simple 5 or a 4, you can take out a unit pretty easily. So we'll have to work with some balance issues there, try to figure out what fits best. If you guys have any comments or any ideas on how to better make the rules work, feel free to comment and give me some ideas. It'll be very helpful. I would like to continue this and try out some different things. I got plenty of ideas for a lion hunt in the safari, or trying to rescue some civilians from a rampaging elephant. Lots of different ideas for things to do in the age of exploration for Africa. So with that, thanks for watching.